Berserk has some great moments to enjoy, and they're of course mainly associated with the protagonist of the story, Guts. My videos tend to kinda delve into deep and philosophical aspects of discussion, which usually ends in two extremes, either triggering people to troll in the comment section, or people agree and thank you for sharing. So in celebration of the channel reaching 5,000 subs, I wanted to scale back and make a lighthearted video for all of us to enjoy. And frankly, it's kinda been a while since I've done a top or countdown video. I want to stress that in no way, shape, or form am I stating that these are the greatest moments. These are based on my opinion. I'm just choosing random instances in the story that appeal to the audience or were fantastic moments of Guts in general. In my opinion, of course. Now with that being said, let's look at some Sleven GOAT moments in Guts' story. Yo. Now, let's take it back to the very beginning of the series during the Black Swordsman era. After taking care of the Snake Baron in the first chapter, Guts arrives in the next town on his pursuit in apostle hunting. While in the crowd witnessing an execution, the head of the executed woman rolls over to his feet. He picks it up, and one of the Count's men confronts Guts about it. Guts is rebellious as ever, spits in the dude's face, then proceeds to throw the head at the Count, who catches it with one hand and sees that Guts has marked the brand on her forehead, signifying that he knows he's an apostle. He punches the guard with his prosthetic arm, knocking his teeth out, and when they lock eyes, Guts proceeds to do one of the most gangster things I've ever read in a manga. He points to his brand, then streaks a line across his neck using the blood pouring out towards the Count, declaring war. The first time I read this sequence in the manga was when it was stamped to me that Guts is a G. A short time after the eclipse, Guts finally decides it's time to take the fight to the apostles, hiding amongst the populace and get revenge for his fallen comrades. Goto arms him with a new sword and armor. Rickert arms him with the prosthetic metal arm. But in the middle of getting ready to leave, an apostle sniffs out Guts and Gutsca planning to eat them. Now you know Guts ain't having none of that, and takes this opportunity to test out his new sword on the first apostle in his quest for vengeance. Safe to say that Guts is faring well, until his new sword breaks when trying to make the finishing blow. The apostle uses his innards to send Guts flying into Goto's armory, and Rickert takes this moment to inform Guts on how to use the hidden arm cannon. Even though the blast was really effective, the recoil dislocates his shoulder, and while Guts is trying to fix it, something catches his eye. Next thing we see, a large blade cleaving open the head of the apostle, sending it flying out the armory. Next thing we see is Guts stepping out in killer instinct mode, pulling out the Dragonslayer and landing the finishing blow and leaving the apostle in two pieces. This has got to be one of the most uplifting and exciting moments Berserk fans experience post-eclipse. After taking out Rosine and her brood, then barely escaping being hounded by Farnese while severely wounded, Jill, after witnessing her friend die, reluctant to return home due to her abusive father and predatory uncle, follows after Guts to where he's hiding and persists that Guts takes her with him. Knowing that Jill will not take no for an answer, Guts decides to show her why it's a bad idea to accompany him on his travels, by peering over her and displaying to her how haunted he is by dark spirits who threaten his sanity and safety, regardless of the atmosphere he inhabits, to scare her straight. This was such a huge moment for Guts' personal growth after a chain of chapters that displayed his darkest moments, where it seemed like he didn't care about anything or anyone other than the mission, indirectly showing his care for Jill's safety, not only because he is marked, but for what comes as a consequence of being branded. Most importantly, being traumatized by the death and possession of Colette's dead body earlier during the Black Swordsman arc. After 2 years of apostle hunting and being pursued by the Holy See, Guts returns home to check on how things are going to find that Gutsca is gone. Rickert blames himself, but Goto and Erika put the proper blame on Guts for leaving on his own. Therefore, that's why Gutsca is missing. What's so great about this moment is that while alone in the cave, Guts finally has some time to reflect and rest without being haunted by evil spirits. It's also the first time he recognizes his other half's existence, the Beast of Darkness. While doing some self-reflection, pondering of the last moments during the Golden Age before the eclipse, He reinvigorates his resolve and forgoes the destructive path of the Black Swordsman, and channels his energy into finding and never losing Gutsca again. One of the many moments of evolution and personal growth as a character for Guts, recognizing his faults and having tunnel vision, but still persevering to move forward and do better. One of my favorite moments during the Golden Age was during the rescue of Griffith, specifically when the squad was being pursued by Wild's black dogs. Naturally, as a raider, Guts fell back to intercept so his comrades won't meet heavy resistance. Similar to his first mission given to him by Griffith years prior, but as he prepped himself to take on the pursuers, Pippin appeared to assist. And by Guts' reaction to them teaming up, you already know what was about to go down. And it was just that in the next panel. Guts and Pippin tearing through the black dogs. Just pure cremation. What makes this moment so memorable is this is one of the few times outside of the main trio that Guts is seen teaming up with a comrade in battle. More importantly, it's one of the few moments in the story that Guts' friendship with Pippin is given some development, outside of the time they first celebrated together after Guts' first successful mission appointed by Griffith, which also makes it even more sad given how their last interaction went during the eclipse, hinting that even though Pippin wasn't a very vocal character, that him and Guts had a pretty close relationship behind the scenes. And personally, I would have loved to see them both working together to slay apostles post-eclipse in a similar fashion. This moment came from the Falcon of Millennium Empire arc. While the band tries escaping Vertanis after convincing Farnese and Serpico to rejoin the group en route to Elfhelm, in order for them to make their escape, they have to carve a path between three-way warpath between the Kushan Empire, the Holy See, and Griffith's apostles. Fast forward, Ganishka himself appears on the battlefield as a giant impenetrable thundercloud, and the only apostle that seems to be able to endure his assault is Zod. But even he is having a hard time harming the Emperor. After a few failed assaults on Ganishka, Zod is struck down and coincidentally falls towards Guts, crashing into the sea. When Zod emerges from under the water, Guts is clinging onto his back, and although both of them are not happy with the circumstance, they agree to work together to take down Ganishka. With Shirkei's help in identifying the weak point, they are successfully able to take down Ganishka's avatar. Once the deed is done, both Guts and Zod are down from the amount of electricity Ganishka's avatar contained. But of course, Zod being an apostle means he is able to recover with more efficiency. Zod, like a G, he is mocking Guts by asking if he is that weak that he can't keep his word on battling after defeating Ganishka. Although worn out, the goat stands up ready to oblige, and out of respect for his resolve, Zod decides to postpone their duel, even stopping one of his underlings from trying to consume Guts. You just can't help but respect Zod. Although an apostle, he is so admirable, it's conflicting. I don't think that I have to go far in explaining the importance of this moment and what it symbolizes for the progression of the story in our favorite couple, especially off the fact that there was fan petition to have it adapted so much that marketing for the Memorial Edition highlighted this specifically to draw in the audience. A moment that allowed Guts to open up and return to Gutsca after being rescued from the 100-man assault. It proved to her that he wasn't just a selfish mad dog that she presumed he was, and that he actually cared for the other members of the band's passions beyond the battlefield, including her feelings toward Griffith, and Griffith achieving his dream. But most important is that it cemented Guts' decision to move on from the band and to truly establish his own resolve, becoming the friend that Griffith spoke of. Heading into familiar territory is the infamous second duel between the main characters of the story. What makes this moment so great is not just that Guts defeats Griffith in one-on-one. More importantly is what it symbolizes. Guts retaking his agency as an individual and his free will that was taken from him by Griffith during the first duel. Which is why it was such a devastating blow to Griffith, because up until this day, no one has ever challenged him and was successful. More importantly is the mental aspect of this. For such a prideful and privileged individual such as Griffith to lose was inconceivable to anybody. Guts is the only person in history to oppose Griffith's will and impose his own in the process. One can imagine how traumatizing that can be for someone of Griffith's temperament, being forced to accept Guts' decision to leave, losing an underling, and someone he believed to be a friend, even though Guts was doing this based upon Griffith's own words as to what he considers to be a true friend.
Ironic.
Literally a whole year after leaving the band to explore his own purpose, we find Guts at a festival, spectating on a combat competition, where we are first introduced to one of the newest characters in the story, Silat, humiliating a hulking warrior named Valencia with ease and the grace of his Bakudaka skill sets. After such a quick victory, Guts decides to step in to challenge Silat, skipping over another challenger who was in wait. Silat and the sponsor of the tournament accept Guts' proposal, and what ensues next is nothing but spectacular. Guts in his overconfidence doesn't even take a stance, which is alarming to Silat, but doesn't care as he takes the offensive to quickly end this as quickly as he did with Valencia. But as swift as Silat's attacks are, they are easily dodged by Guts, mirroring how Silat was against his former opponent. Seeing that his attacks are not having any effect, Silat decides to switch his strategy and throw a question mark kick with a hidden blade in his boot. Guts parries with the grip of his sword. Using that momentum, Silat counters with the right kick, which Guts blocks with his free hand. Now that both Guts' hands are preoccupied with blocking, Silat takes this opportunity to strike with his main weapons using his acrobatic skills, and it seems like checkmate. With the power of plot armor, Guts swiftly counters this attack by swatting at Silat with his sword and sends him flying into the stands. This is just one of the many encounters between these two, and definitely not the last we see of Silat in the story, as he has plenty of instances of character growth as well. But now that media isn't able to finish the story, it might be unlikely for us to see how he plays a part in the latter arcs of the overall story. Immediately following the events of the festival, Guts learns that the band of the Hawk are being hunted as fugitives of Midland. After returning to assist what's left of the band, repelling Silat and the other mercenaries sent to kill them, Gutsca per usual calls Guts aside to speak privately, and immediately starts attacking him. Guts easily fends off her strikes, but as he tries to get her to speak up on what it's all about, Gutsca informs him on what happened after he left, and how he's the root cause. Distraught by what she said, Guts is struck by her sword, and Gutsca tries to withdraw so he isn't fatally wounded. After successfully withdrawing her blade and due to mental exhaustion, she decides to commit suicide on a cliff, but Guts catches her in time and pulls her to safety. In an emotional moment where she indirectly reveals feelings for him, Guts consoles Gutsca, who is teary-eyed, and finally, the brewing feelings both held for one another since the Battle of Doldrey manifest, as they both kiss in the beautiful scenery in front of the waterfall. The most compelling part about how this took place is how Gutsca confesses on how she is indirectly responsible for him getting hurt. From the first time they met in battle where Griffith had to injure Guts to stop him from killing her, to punching him in his wound after being forced to keep him warm, saving her after falling off the cliff, fighting off 100 men so she may get away to safety, to now, during this confession. It goes to show how media meticulously orchestrated their pairing from the beginning, which makes this moment even more satisfying once coming to fruition. Look, if you thought all the GOAT moments were gonna be all action-packed with Guts going berserk all the time and chopping up bad guys, then sorry. Well, not really, but maybe people should understand that berserk is not all about horror and action. Anyway, Guts is not known for being emotionally loving on first contact, because from inception due to the Eclipse event, he hated the demon baby fetus. And even when it evolved into the Moonchild after the Conviction arc, he wasn't very open to his existence. So when the Moonchild appeared on Elfhelm and Guts was more than open to speak and interact with him, it was another moment of significant growth and maturity for him. Not to mention how teary-eyed it made many fans to see him have a dad moment with him, playing knights while he tries to don Guts' armor. It was even more tear-jerking to find out that him and Griffith shared the same body at the end of chapter 364. Then subsequently, being the final chapter that the creator of Berserk was able to physically work on himself. We miss you, media. There are a plethora of great moments in Berserk's story, and if I were to point all of them out, this video would probably take hours. It also speaks volumes given how the Golden Age had so many of the best moments alone. But these were just random instances I felt were great and highlighted many aspects of Guts' development as a character. What did you all think of these moments that I picked? Do you agree, disagree, or would you counter with your own favorite moments? Make sure to check out the links in the description, specifically the link to the Berserk playlist, and more links in the comment pinned to the top for cool perks like savings on PC games or tools for your YouTube channel. Obviously, there are affiliate links, and I would appreciate any form of support for this channel as we grow the community. If you would like to see similar videos or have any suggestions for future topics, let me know, and don't forget to hit that like button after subscribing and hitting that bell. You know the vibes. It's Kaizoku Sleven. Appreciate you.